Imagine this, you've been pushing yourself at the gym, sweating through endless cardio sessions, lifting heavier weights, following diet plans that make you feel deprived, and still, when you look in the mirror, the belly fat doesn't budge. It's frustrating, isn't it? You scroll through social media, try every so-called fat burning hack, drink detox teas, count every single calorie, and somehow your stomach feels like it's working against you. You start to wonder, is my body broken? Am I just destined to live with this fat forever? But here's the reality. It's not about how little you eat. It's not about how much you run. The real issue is something deeper, something most people never address. You see, visceral fat, the dangerous fat hiding around your organs, doesn't burn just because you're in the gym. It doesn't respond to punishment or starvation. It only responds when you fix the hidden problem driving it. And this problem is the one thing doctors rarely tell you about. They focus on calories, they prescribe medications, they talk about diets, but they overlook the root because that's silently keeping your body locked in fat storage mode. Once you understand it, everything changes, your body begins to unlock, your energy stabilizes, your cravings fade, and that stubborn belly fat finally starts to shrink. Not because you're fighting harder, but because you've given your body permission to do what it was designed to do all along. Most people think all fat is the same. They look at the mirror, pinch their waist, and assume that the fat they see on the outside is the same fat that sits deep inside. But the truth is, not all fat is created equal. The fat under your skin, the one you can pinch with your fingers, is called subcutaneous fat. It's the type that makes your arms jiggle or adds a soft layer around your thighs. Annoying, yes, but not nearly as dangerous as the fat you cannot see. That fat is called visceral fat, and it's a whole different story. Think of it like this: subcutaneous fat is like keeping boxes in your garage. You see them every day, they take up space, but at least you know what's inside. Visceral fat is like the junk hidden in your basement. You can't see it, you forget it's there, but it builds up over time. And because it's buried deep around your vital organs, your liver, pancreas, intestines, and even your heart, it creates serious problems that you might not feel until it's too late. Doctors often don't explain this difference because the medical world has been trained to focus on symptoms instead of root causes. They'll tell you to lose weight, but they rarely stop to explain what kind of weight matters most. A person can look thin on the outside and still have a dangerous layer of visceral fat suffocating their organs. This is why you sometimes hear about people who seem skinny but are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, or heart disease. It's not the fat they see in the mirror, it's the fat that's been hiding underneath. Visceral fat behaves differently than the fat under your skin. Subcutaneous fat mostly just sits there as storage. Visceral fat, on the other hand, is metabolically active. That means it doesn't just store energy, it acts like an organ by itself, pumping out inflammatory chemicals, hormones, and toxins into your bloodstream. Imagine having a toxic factory running inside your body 24 hours a day, producing smoke that clouds your system. That's what visceral fat does. It interferes with insulin, raises blood sugar, increases blood pressure, and creates inflammation that spreads everywhere. This is also why visceral fat is so stubborn. Your body doesn't want to let go of it easily because it's tied up with hormones. It's not just energy sitting on your hips, it's locked away in your system like an emergency reserve. Think of it as a savings account the body refuses to touch unless it feels safe. And here's the frustrating part: you can run on the treadmill for an hour, cut calories all week, and still not access that fat because your hormones, especially insulin, are blocking the door. Most weight loss advice doesn't make this distinction. That's why people get discouraged. They lose a few pounds, maybe some water weight, maybe some subcutaneous fat, but the visceral fat clings on. The body protects it like a vault. It's not until you change the environment inside your body, lower insulin, reduce inflammation, stabilize hormones, that your body finally says, okay, I can burn this now. That's when the real transformation begins. You might wonder why doctors rarely explain all this. The truth is, much of the medical system is built around treating diseases, not preventing them. They'll wait until visceral fat has already caused fatty liver or high blood sugar, then prescribe medication. But by that time, the fat has already been silently damaging your health for years. If you don't understand the difference between belly fat you can see and belly fat you can't, you'll chase the wrong solution over and over again. The frustrating thing is people often blame themselves. They say, I'm lazy, I just need more discipline. Maybe I should eat less. But it's not about discipline. It's about biology. You're not fighting just regular fat. You're fighting a type of fat that behaves like an organ, that influences your entire metabolism, and that hides until you start addressing it the right way. If you've been struggling to lose belly fat and nothing seems to work, the hidden culprit is often something almost nobody talks about: insulin resistance. Most doctors don't explain it, yet it's the #1 reason visceral fat refuses to burn. Insulin is a hormone with one main job: to move sugar out of your bloodstream and into your cells. Every time you eat, especially carbohydrates or processed foods, your blood sugar rises. Insulin comes out to lower that sugar, moving it into your muscles or your liver. But here's the catch: when insulin levels are high all the time, your body never gets the signal to burn stored fat. Instead, it keeps locking fat away, especially in the organs where visceral fat builds. Think of insulin like a security guard standing in front of your fat cells. As long as that guard is there, no fat can come out. You can exercise, you can starve yourself, but if insulin is constantly elevated, the door to visceral fat stays shut. This is why so many people feel stuck. They're doing all the right things on paper, but their body simply cannot access that deep fat. I'll give you a simple story. Imagine Sarah, a 42-year-old woman trying to lose belly fat. She wakes up and has oatmeal with fruit for breakfast because she heard it's healthy. A couple hours later, she snacks on a granola bar because she's hungry again. For lunch, she grabs a sandwich with whole wheat bread because she's avoiding bad carbs. But dinner, she's exhausted, so she makes pasta with a salad and tells herself she ate pretty clean. But here's what really happened. Every meal kept her insulin high. Her oatmeal, her granola bar, her bread, her pasta, all spiked insulin. Even though she was eating foods most people call healthy, her body never got the chance to switch into fat-burning mode. Instead, insulin told her body to keep storing fat, especially in the belly. This is why people often say, "I barely eat junk, I exercise, but my stomach never shrinks." The issue isn't willpower. The issue is hormones. High insulin is like a switch that locks fat storage mode on, and until that switch turns off, visceral fat isn't going anywhere. Now, here's where it gets frustrating. The standard medical approach doesn't address this. If you go to your doctor with stubborn belly fat, they might check your weight, maybe your cholesterol, maybe your blood sugar. But unless your blood sugar is already very high, they probably won't mention insulin resistance. Why? Because the tests they run don't show the years of insulin spikes happening in the background. You could have normal blood sugar for a long time while insulin is working overtime to keep it that way. By the time blood sugar goes up, the problem has already been there for years. So instead of telling you about insulin, most doctors give you the usual advice: less, move more. Or they prescribe medications to manage blood sugar. But notice what those medications do. They control sugar in the bloodstream, not the root problem of high insulin. It's like mopping the floor every day while leaving the faucet running. You're dealing with the symptom, not fixing the cause. Low-calorie diets don't solve it either. When you slash calories, your body may lose some weight at first, but if you're still spiking insulin, the visceral fat won't budge. Plus, your metabolism slows down because your body thinks it's starving. That's why most people regain the weight and sometimes even more. The key is to lower insulin, not just lower calories. Once insulin drops, the security guard steps away from the fat cells, and your body finally gets permission to use stored fat for energy. This is why people who focus on lowering insulin through strategies like cutting refined carbs, eating real food, and timing their meals differently start to see changes in the stubborn belly area that no amount of treadmill running could touch. Visceral fat doesn't burn by effort alone. It burns when the body is allowed to access it. And the only way the body gets that access is when insulin resistance is reversed. Until then, your fat cells are locked, and no amount of dieting or exercise can pick that lock. For decades, we've been told the same formula: eat less, exercise more, and the fat will disappear. It sounds logical on the surface. If fat is just stored energy, then reducing calories and burning more through exercise should shrink the fat, right? But if you've ever tried it, you already know the truth. You eat less, you push harder at the gym, you step on the scale, and at first you may see a small drop. But after a few weeks, the weight loss slows, then stalls, and sometimes even reverses. It feels like your body is fighting you every step of the way, and in reality it is. The human body was designed to survive, not to look good in the mirror. When you cut calories, the body sees it as a potential famine. It responds by slowing down your metabolism, conserving energy, and holding on to fat. You might notice your energy dropping, your cravings spiking, and your workouts feeling harder. That's your body adapting. It's not broken, it's protecting itself. And unfortunately, it's protecting visceral fat most of all, because that's the fat your body treats like an emergency reserve. I've met countless people who have followed strict diets and long cardio routines, yet their belly fat refuses to budge. Let me give you an example. Mark is in his 50s working hard to get healthier. He starts cutting calories, avoiding snacks, and running 3 miles every morning. After 3 weeks, the scale shows he's lost 5 pounds. He feels motivated, but by week 6, his weight hasn't moved. In fact, he feels weaker, hungrier, and constantly tired. His pants still feel tight around the waist. What happened? His body adapted. It slowed his metabolism to match the lower calorie intake. And because insulin was still high from his food choices, his body never tapped into visceral fat. He burned off some glycogen, some water, maybe even a bit of muscle, but not the dangerous fat he wanted to lose. That's the problem with the eat less, move more approach. It only looks at the math of calories and ignores the biology of hormones. Visceral fat isn't controlled by math, it's controlled by chemistry. If insulin is elevated, the body is locked in storage mode. You can run all day long, but your body will burn sugar first, then muscle, before it ever touches the visceral fat. That's why so many people feel like hamsters on a wheel. They're working harder, but not seeing the results in the area that matters most. Exercise itself is not the enemy. Movement is powerful for health, mood, and longevity, but using exercise as your primary fat loss tool almost always backfires. If you burn 500 calories on the treadmill, your body compensates later by making you hungrier or lowering your activity for the rest of the day. And if your meals keep spiking insulin, all that burned energy is replaced and stored again as fat. You're fighting a losing battle. Cutting calories has the same trap. At first, it tricks you into thinking it's working. But your body is smart. If you cut 500 calories, your body eventually slows down and burns 500 fewer calories to match it. Now you're stuck. If you cut even more, your metabolism slows even further. This is why so many people hit a plateau, then blame themselves for failing, when in fact their biology simply adapted. The real question is not how many calories you eat, but what your hormones are doing with those calories. 2 people could eat the exact same amount of food, say 2,000 calories a day. One eats mostly processed carbs and snacks, the other eats protein, healthy fats, and whole foods. Same calories, different hormonal responses. The first person will keep insulin high and stay in storage mode. The second person will keep insulin low and give the body a chance to tap into stored fat. This is why calories alone never tell the full story. If visceral fat was purely a math problem, we'd all have 6 packs by now. Everyone knows how to eat less and move more, but the epidemic of obesity and belly fat keeps rising. The reason is clear. Our bodies don't operate on calorie math, they operate on hormonal signals. Until you address those signals, especially insulin, your body will protect the visceral fat no matter how hard you try to burn it off. The moment you start lowering insulin, everything changes. It's like flipping a master switch that unlocks the doors to your fat cells. For years, insulin has been standing guard, keeping that stored energy locked away. But when insulin begins to drop, the body suddenly remembers how to use fat as fuel again. You don't have to force it. You don't have to punish yourself. You simply give your body permission to tap into what's been stored all along. On day 1 of lowering insulin, most people don't see much change on the outside, but the inside begins shifting. Your body is used to burning sugar for fuel, so when you cut back on processed foods, refined carbs, or constant snacking, insulin levels finally get a chance to dip. At first, your body complains. You may feel cravings or low energy because it's looking for its usual sugar fix. Think of it like a car that's always run on gasoline suddenly being told to run on electricity. The system needs time to adjust. But even on this first day, something important is happening. The lock on your fat cells is starting to loosen. By day 3, insulin has stayed low long enough for your body to begin switching fuel tanks. You've been running on sugar most of your life, but now your body starts realizing it can use fat as its backup source. This is when your liver begins producing ketones, molecules made from fat that can fuel your brain and muscles. It's like discovering a second battery pack that had been hidden all along. Many people feel a bit of brain fog at this stage, but then something clicks. Energy begins to stabilize. Hunger between meals isn't as sharp. That's because your body is finally starting to burn stored fat instead of screaming for another quick carb snack. By day 7, the changes become more noticeable. Insulin sensitivity improves, meaning your cells are now listening to insulin instead of resisting it. When you do eat, your blood sugar no longer spikes as high, and insulin doesn't stay elevated as long. That opens the door wider to fat burning. People often describe this as feeling lighter, less bloated, more focused. The fat around the organs, the visceral fat, is now vulnerable. Your body no longer needs to store it for emergencies because it knows how to use it. Waistlines often feel a little looser, not because of water loss alone, but because the body is beginning to shrink fat stores from the inside. By day 14, the transformation is undeniable. Your body has officially shifted from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner. Cravings for constant snacks fade because your body is tapping into a steady supply of energy from fat. The fog that once clouded your brain lifts, sleep often improves, and the stubborn belly that wouldn't budge finally starts softening. The reason isn't that you suddenly worked harder or deprived yourself more. It's because insulin levels dropped enough to unlock the vault where visceral fat was stored. Now, instead of being stuck in fat storage mode, you're living in fat burning mode. The best part is how natural this feels once the switch happens. When insulin is high, hunger controls you, you think about food constantly, you feel irritable if you don't eat, and you rely on willpower to say no to cravings. But when insulin is low and fat burning is active, the opposite happens. You can go longer without food, not because you're forcing yourself, but because your body has thousands of calories of stored energy to use. It's like upgrading from a car with a tiny fuel tank that needs refueling every few miles to one with a massive tank that can go for hours without stopping. Visceral fat begins to shrink not from punishment, but from balance. When insulin sensitivity is restored, your body naturally chooses fat as its primary fuel source. Each day that passes with lower insulin, the body becomes more efficient at pulling energy from storage. What seemed impossible before, burning off stubborn belly fat, becomes the default mode of your metabolism. The biggest shift happens not from another diet plan, not from another round of exhausting workouts, but from changing the environment inside your body. Visceral fat doesn't burn when you punish yourself, it burns when your hormones are given the right signals. And those signals come from lifestyle choices that lower insulin and restore balance. Fasting is one of the most powerful tools for this. When you go without food for a stretch of time, your insulin naturally drops. Most people are used to eating from the moment they wake up until late at night. That constant grazing keeps insulin elevated all day long, which means fat storage never shuts off. But when you allow a gap between meals, whether it's 12 hours, 16 hours, or more, your body finally gets the signal that it's safe to burn fat. It's like flipping the switch from storage to fuel. At first it may feel strange, but within a few days, your hunger starts to change. The constant need for snacks fades because your body learns to pull from its own fat stores. Food quality matters just as much. If fasting lowers insulin, eating real food keeps it low. The problem isn't just calories, it's what those calories are made of. Processed bread, sugary drinks, cereals, and snack bars may look innocent, but they push insulin higher and higher, keeping visceral fat locked away. When you replace those with nutrient-dense foods, grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish, leafy greens, healthy fats like avocado and olive oil, your body responds differently. You're not spiking insulin, you're nourishing your cells. And the bonus is that you feel full longer without the roller coaster of energy crashes and cravings. Sleep is another hidden key. Many people underestimate how much poor sleep affects fat loss. When you don't sleep well, stress hormones like cortisol rise, and cortisol works hand in hand with insulin to store fat, especially around the belly. 1 or 2 nights of bad sleep and suddenly cravings for sugar go up, willpower goes down, and belly fat storage is triggered. On the other hand, when you consistently get 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep, hormones reset. Insulin sensitivity improves, hunger signals normalize, and your body can do the deep repair work that includes burning fat. Stress control plays a similar role. Think about it. Your body doesn't know the difference between being chased by a predator and stressing about bills, relationships, or work deadlines. Stress raises cortisol, and cortisol raises blood sugar, which then raises insulin. You can eat perfectly, you can even fast, but if your stress is through the roof, your body is still in storage mode. Simple practices like deep breathing, meditation, walking outside, or even just slowing down during meals send a powerful message to your body you're safe. And when your body feels safe, it finally allows fat to be released. The beauty of these shifts is how they feel once they start working together. Imagine this: waking up in the morning without the desperate need for a sugary breakfast, going hours without thinking about food, having steady energy throughout the day, and feeling mental clarity instead of brain fog. You notice your pants fitting a little looser, your face looking less puffy, and your mood more stable. That's the experience of living in fat-burning mode. It doesn't feel forced, it feels natural, like your body was designed for it all along. Cravings that once controlled your day begin to disappear. Energy no longer crashes at 3 in the afternoon. You don't have to rely on caffeine or willpower to push through. And as weeks pass, the stubborn fat that clung to your waistline begins to shrink without you obsessing over every calorie. It's not about perfection. It's about creating an environment where insulin stays low, your hormones align, and your body does what it was designed to do. Imagine what happens months after you commit to healing your body instead of just chasing quick fixes. At first, the change may have been visible in looser pants or a shrinking waistline, but the deeper transformation is happening beneath the surface. Each day of consistent fasting, cleaner eating, and balanced habits is quietly rewriting your health story. Your blood sugar is no longer on a roller coaster, insulin resistance is fading, and your body is no longer forced to store fat as a survival response. What once felt like a constant uphill battle now feels like momentum carrying you forward. The long-term results reach far beyond appearance. By tackling the root cause, high insulin and chronic inflammation, you've given your body the space to heal. The fat that once clung tightly to your belly, liver, and organs begins to release because the storage signals have finally been silenced. This reduces your risk of type 2 diabetes in ways no crash diet ever could. Every day your cells become more efficient at using energy, and every night your body repairs itself instead of being overloaded by sugar and fat. Your liver, once burdened with extra fat, now functions as it was designed to, filtering toxins and producing the energy you need without struggle. Your heart is also benefiting. Excess visceral fat around the organs doesn't just make you heavier, it increases blood pressure, raises cholesterol, and inflames your arteries. When you reduce that fat, the stress on your cardiovascular system eases, blood vessels relax, circulation improves, and oxygen moves freely to every cell. This means not only a healthier heart, but also sharper brain function, stronger muscles, and more stamina to live life fully. What felt impossible months ago, climbing stairs without losing breath, exercising with joy, or simply waking up refreshed, becomes your new normal. What makes this transformation powerful is that it isn't about extreme restriction or punishment. Once your hormones are balanced, the effort feels lighter. You don't have to constantly fight hunger or rely on willpower because your body is no longer screaming for quick energy. Instead, it naturally taps into stored fat, keeping your energy stable throughout the day. Food becomes fuel again, not a source of guilt or fear. The cycle of binging, dieting, and frustration finally breaks. The beauty of this process is that it builds resilience. Each healthy choice reinforces the next. Instead of fearing weight regain, you discover that the habits supporting your health are sustainable. You can enjoy social meals without spiraling back into old patterns because your body no longer clings to fat at the first sign of indulgence. The reset is real and lasting. By healing the core dysfunction, you've unlocked freedom, the freedom to live without the constant mental weight of food obsession and body insecurity. People around you notice the difference, not just in how you look, but in how you carry yourself. Energy, confidence, and clarity radiate from you. But even more important than what others see is what you feel inside, a deep sense of control, of partnership with your body rather than war against it. What once felt broken now feels whole. Your body wasn't betraying you, it was protecting you the only way it knew how. By changing the signals you sent it, through fasting, lifestyle resets, and nourishment, you've given it permission to let go of what no longer serves you. That stubborn fat was never the enemy. It was a shield, a biological safeguard for times of imbalance. And now, with the root cause addressed, that shield can dissolve. The weight doesn't just come off, it stays off because the conditions that forced it there have been dismantled. This is the transformation most people never reach because they chase surface fixes instead of true healing. Your journey proves something vital. You don't have to be trapped in cycles of diets, gyms, and frustration. When you work with your biology instead of against it, your body does what it was designed to do. Heal, restore, and thrive. Your body isn't broken, it was protecting you. Now, you've given it permission to heal and burn the fat that once held you back. Would you like me to expand this into X-Series style closing speech, like week 4, month 6, year 1, transformation snapshots, so it feels more cinematic and builds a stronger emotional arc?